Welcome again to Marriage That Works, the ministry with the mandate to help put your marriage in the right perspective, God's perspective, by teaching and encouraging various values which we believe will help transform that marriage of yours from that necessary evil you may have thought it to be to what God intends for you. I concluded the last episode by listing ways, 9 ways a woman or a wife needs her husband to communicate love to her. I do sincerely hope that every married man that has watched or will still watch that video will take the necessary step towards making amends. In this episode, as we continue to look at the all important pair in marriage, which are love and respect, I'm going to be listing again, in no particular order, ways our husbands need their wives to show them respect. I have interacted with a few men, and I can boldly say that the way to a man's heart is not good food, like the old saying puts it. It is not even sex, but his wife's respect. In fact, they see respect as being equal to love. They believe that if a man claims to love her husband but does not respect him, then she does not truly love him. To further help in the quest for happiness in your home, I have listed few ways a husband feels respected by his wife. I must quickly say here again that the list is not all inclusive, but I believe it speaks the minds of most men. Thank God I am been married to a man as well. So I've also drawn from my almost 14 years experience with him and what he has told me that respect is to him. So here are 9 ways a man needs his wife to show him respect. 1. A man needs his wife to show him respect by not responding to his question with another question. I'll give you a personal experience, a typical scenario that used to play out in my home some time ago. He would come into the kitchen and ask me, "What are you doing?" And I would respond, "Can't you see I'm cooking?" My husband would just quietly walk away. And I would think that I had given him the best answer because I felt what I was doing was so obvious that he didn't need to have asked in the first place. I didn't realize then how bad I was making him feel and how much damage I was doing to my marriage. I was to later discover what would most likely have followed if I had answered him respectfully. He would have asked what he could do to help me, and that would have eased my burden. My giving him the respect he desired would have also brought me the love I needed at that point, which was his helping hand. So, dear wife, the next time your husband asks you a question, please resist the urge to answer him with another question. You simply make him look stupid and disrespected when you do that. A husband needs his wife to show him respect by not acting like his mother. Most of us women have this motherly instinct in us. The greatest mistake we make, however, is directing that instinct towards our husbands. We unconsciously want to correct and even discipline them the same way we do to our children, and it just doesn't make sense to them. When you scold your husband like you were his mother, you make him feel feeble and you suggest to him that he isn't grown yet. The third way a man needs his wife's respect is by praising him and not criticizing him. The husband feels respected when you speak well of him, both to him in the private and in the public about him or in the presence of others. In much the same way you need your husband to praise you and appreciate you, so he does need it as well. He needs you to encourage him and not discourage him. He needs you to build him up and not tear him down. He needs you to cheer him on and not criticize him. He feels terrible already when he makes mistakes or he fails. But you shatter him most when you retort with those words. I told you, but you wouldn't listen to me. Your husband needs you to be his biggest fan ever. Number four, a husband needs his wife to show him respect by trusting his judgment. I am not saying here that a wife should gullibly agree with everything her husband does or wants. No, I don't do that in my marriage. And in fact, no real man wants that from his wife. A lot of conversations, sometimes debates, as well as mutual submissions are needed in a successful marriage. However, a man feels respected when his wife can trust his judgment and respect his decision. Number five, a man feels respected when the wife fulfills his sexuality. A sexually starved husband is usually a frustrated man. He is both physically frustrated, making him less productive, and emotionally frustrated, feeling not man enough for his wife. A man is more fulfilled, feels respected, and is better able to respond to his wife's need when she prioritizes intimacy with him, responds willingly to his advances, and even initiates, quite often, sexual activities with him. A man feels respected also when the wife does not usurp his authority. One of the things that erodes a man's self-esteem is having a wife that controls the marriage instead of allowing him to fulfill his God-given leadership role. A very good example is that of Mr. Pedro and his wife, not real name. Mr. Pedro had wanted his children in a particular not so expensive school because that's what he could afford. However, his wife had insisted on a more expensive and more sophisticated school because that's the school, or that's the kind of school all her friends' children attend. She has since been paying the difference of the school fees. However, this has put a strain on their marriage, and Mr. Pedro is definitely not a happy man for it. So, dear wife, when next you consider usurping your husband's authority, please, I beg of you, remember that it is an act of disrespect to him, and do well to desist from such acts. Number seven, a man feels respected when his wife does not compare him with the next door neighbor. One of the meanest things I think any wife can do to her husband is to compare him with another man whom she thinks is a better husband, or who seems to be making more money than he does. Naturally, men have a lot of internally generated pressures in them to perform because they feel they are being judged by their accomplishments. So when you make such statements as, is this what your mates are giving their wives for feeding allowance? Or, why can't you just be as romantic as Mr. So and so? Then you make your husband feel inadequate, leaving him with the deepest feeling of disrespect he can't ever cope with. Another way a man feels respected by his wife is when she doesn't always insist on her own way. A husband recalled, the other day my wife wanted me to take her shopping, but I declined because it's usually a waste of time for me to sit in the car for hours waiting for her while in the market. It's not that I don't want to do it. I have done it for her a couple of times, but what I find painful is how she always insists on her own and then quarrels when she doesn't have things done her way. She makes me feel like a puppet that must always do her bidding. Hmm. It is the height of disrespect to a man when his wife tries to boss him or make him feel wrong by questioning his opinions and or decisions. A man also feels respected when the wife does not undermine his authority as a father. A husband needs to know that his wife considers him to be not only a good husband, but also a great father. When you express displeasure each time your husband disciplines his child, especially in the presence of that child, you are simply telling him that he is not a good father, and trust me, he's never going to love you for that. The popular belief is that men are egoistic. However, what you call ego is his self image. It is what defines him as a man. In fact, I can bet that that ego in him is what convinced you that he was man enough for you. That self image is so fragile and gets easily broken. Every time you disrespect your husband, you simply question his ability as a man. You may have justified your attitude long enough, saying you do not respect your husband because you don't verbally abuse him or call him names. You may even say you kneel down every time you greet him. So what else does he want? Can I tell you something? If your husband says you have been disrespectful to him, please be humble enough to consider critically the points I have raised to see where you have gone wrong and begin to make amends. May I quickly say here that your husband may not always say to you, "That was disrespectful," each time you do or say something that hurts him. He might just be withdrawn or display an outburst of anger, and you think he's being irrational. Please understand that he is not being unreasonable as you may think. He is only feeling the pain of your unpremeditated disrespect towards him. Let me conclude this video by making reference to the popular Proverbs chapter 14 verse 1a that says, "Every wise woman builds her own house." Has your marriage been experiencing a shaking or even a breakdown? Perhaps the best way to start rebuilding it will be to begin to take conscious effort to respect your husband the way he desires you to. Trust me, you'll be glad you did, because when he feels more relaxed and respected around you, you will gradually become more appealing to him again, and in return, he'll be better able to communicate to you that love that you desire. Till I come your way again with another home building nugget, peace be upon your home.